Hello and good morning to my wonderful virtual classroom. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's an absolute honour, privilege, treat, etc. to have you all here. Thank you very much for joining. At the moment, as I say, sort of talking to an empty classroom, but that's neither here nor indeed there. Hello, everybody. Look who's joining. We've got people coming in left, right and centre. Thank you very much indeed. How are we? How are we all out there? We all doing all right? I'll tell you what, from where I'm sitting, it's blowing an absolute hoolie out there. Beautifully sunny, but as I say, it's blowing up a storm out there. So do be careful. Good morning, absolutely everybody. Hello. How was everybody's weekend? How did everybody do? Did you all do okay? Well, we've got names still coming through. Oh, that's very kind of you, Ethan and Jamie. I had a lovely weekend, thank you. I did very little. What did you all get up to? What did you all do? Anyone out there? What did you all get up to? Let me just keep checking these names that we've got coming in. Do keep your names coming in, eh? I just spent the day, or the weekend really, in the garden, doing very, very little. How's mine was good, thank you. It was, it's all getting a bit samey, isn't it? It's hard to distinguish between weekends and weekdays. It's just a matter when I know it's happening because my father comes home and keeps us all very busy. We have to keep him incredibly busy. Played golf, wonderful, how lovely. Hello, everybody. Do keep your names coming in. They're all coming in thick and fast, so I'm sorry if I miss you. Went on a bike ride, how lovely. I do like a good old bike ride. My sister keeps threatening to take me, make me go out on a bike ride, but as you all saw from my charge of the Light Brigade, I'm not in the best of shape, so maybe we'll hold off on that one. We'll give it another minute or so before we launch into everything. Not sure, Barn, if you're asking if I'm okay, but if you are, I'm pleased to report that I am quite well. 10k bike ride, my lord. That's amazing. 10k, good lord. Well done, bravo, have a team point. I really should elect someone to keep a note of how many team points are being awarded. I think you all get one for joining. How does that sound? Lovely, still got some names coming in here. Lovely to have you all here. It really is an absolute honour and a privilege. Today we are talking treason. We're talking the big T word, which is all rather scary and spooky. We have some signal problems apparently. Hang on. Is that better? Hopefully so. I've kicked everyone off the internet at home. Also ran the 5k for the NHS. That's absolutely marvellous. We must all do our bit for those wonderful people out there who are keeping us all going. Yes, maybe I'll do a shout out just generally to our marvellous NHS. Spot your name wrong there, but got to get that in. Hi everybody, hello. Right, okay, let's get going. There's the bell. And with the bell, we go launching into the register. So let's do some shout-outs. We've got some shout-outs going out to Hugo and to Thomas H. and his brother. Welcome. We have Charlie Eggling. Welcome. Lovely to have you here. Jack and Lucas are in the house. Welcome, Jack and Lucas. Hello to Ian. Hello to Danger. Hello to Matilda. Ethan and Jamie, welcome. We're saying hello to Nonna. I saw that Nonna has joined, so I wanted to say a big hello to Nonna. Saying hello to Megan and Olivia. Welcome. We have a hello going to Callum. Welcome, Callum. Daisy and Amelia, welcome. Lovely to have you aboard as always. Special mention to Hamish and Ted. Welcome. To Sophie and Molly. Welcome, Sophie and Molly. Elodie and Leo, hello and welcome. And hello to Archie. Lovely to have you all aboard. And to Joseph. Keep your names coming in, and I will remember, or I'll try and keep an eye on you all. So yes, we're talking gunpowder, treason, and plot today. We will be hurtling back to the 1600s, 1605, to be precise, where we'll be discussing the Gunpowder Plot, that terrible instance where some plotters, some conspirators came together to try and change how everything was. Hello, Isabella, and welcome. Yes, so we're hurtling back to 1600s London, the 5th of November, 1605. As Barney has rightly pointed out, we are in the Stuart dynasty, that wonderful... well, not wonderful, actually, as we can discuss later on if you're interested. They had a lot of trouble, did the Stuarts. In their brief time as rulers of England, we had the Gunpowder Plot for a start. We had the English Civil War. We had all sorts of things going on. So yes, we are in the Stuarts' reign. Hello, Carla. Welcome. Lovely to have you here. People are trying to join. I think you can all join, can't you? Yes, exactly. So... things to remember, as always, we kick things off with things to remember before we hit the main subject. So please remember that King James I of England, but he was also the 6th of Scotland, he was on the throne and he became king because his cousin, Elizabeth I, had died in 1603 with absolutely no children whatsoever. And she hadn't. Don't apologise, Mac, that's absolutely fine. Sit down, pull up a pew and enjoy yourself. So yes, Elizabeth I had died in 1603 with no children. She'd also not designated, assigned or created an heir to take over from her. So there was a bit of a panic across England in the government spheres in the last years of Elizabeth's reign, because they wanted to ensure that at the end of when she finally kicked the bucket, that there would be a seamless handover, because as we know, there was an awful lot of confusion and discord when Henry VIII had died concerning the succession. You can't see me. Oh, I do apologise. Let me know if that's a problem that everyone's having. It looks as though Hugo's okay. I hope that everything's all right there, Thomas. If you have a problem, maybe try restarting the app and join us if that helps. So, James was King of Scotland at the time of Elizabeth's death. And he was, because of the close connection in the families, he was her cousin and he was made King of England. So he was the 1st of England, James the 1st of England, and the 6th of Scotland. His mother, incidentally, was Mary, Queen of Scots. So, Mary, Queen of Scots, as we know, executed on the orders of Elizabeth I, and James, her son, became King of England in 1603. So he came down from Scotland, and there he was. James was a Protestant. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming back to religion, which is the forerunner of all problems at the time. A lot of backwards and forwards. England was a Protestant land, and James was a Protestant himself. And there were a lot of people out there in Europe at the time, in the 1600s, the 17th century, who believed that England should be a Catholic power because of Henry VIII's break with Rome and then the differences with his children, etc. So there are people, as I say, like Elizabeth before him, who believed that England should be Catholic rather than a Protestant country. Start again. I'm not going back to the beginning, Danger. It'd be crazy. We'll be here for days. One of these people who believed that I cannot get the other one. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but don't worry. One of these people who believed that England should once again be a Catholic power was a gentleman called Robert, Robert, Catesby, and that's C for Charlie, A for Apple, T for Tiger, E for Elephant, S for Sugar, B for Bravo, and Y for Yankee. Good morning, Suggers. Suggers1 has joined the house, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Restoring the Haven. Lovely to have you joining us. Thank you for all reaching out and for joining us on this blustery day. So Robert Catesby basically wanted to assemble a group of people in order to turn England back into a Catholic power. It hadn't been Catholic since Henry VIII and his break from Rome, creating the Church of England. So Robert Catesby came together, that's Catesby, Robert Catesby, and he brought together a group of 12 men, 12 people who believed in overthrowing the King James I and putting someone else on the throne. So the plan was as follows. They were going to assassinate, they were going to kill King James I and put his daughter, unhelpfully named Elizabeth, that's another Elizabeth we're talking about here, his daughter Elizabeth on the throne. They saw Elizabeth as young and much easier to manipulate towards their views. So they believed that they'd be able to get rid of the current government under James and put on the throne this very young girl called Elizabeth, not to be confused with Elizabeth I, who was there before. And they wanted Elizabeth to reign as a Catholic ruler. It all comes back to this break with Rome and the difference between Catholic and Protestant Europe. And as we know, it's been going on for a very long time by this point. There was a lot of unhappiness. For those of you who joined the Spanish Armada, we know that all of this came through. Hello to Grandma Bell. Yes, we love Grandma Bell. She's here. She's joining us. So yes, they wanted to put Elizabeth on the throne. Does anyone have any questions before we carry on? Maybe about James, about why do we think he was known as James I and VI of Scotland? Why do we not do that with other monarchs? A little slurp of the old coffee there. Anyone have any ideas on that one? No problem if you don't, because I'm very happy to let you know. It's very, very interesting. Just a comment. So basically, the reason why is because under James, we had the union of Scotland and England, and then it came together later on to create the United Kingdom of Great Britain, and in the end, and Ireland. Love the blazer. Thank you very much indeed. I'm actually wearing this as an homage to my dear old mate Matthew Bone, who's a big fan of Doctor Who, and he calls this my Peter Davison jacket. Catholic and Protestant churches, we've got some emojis coming through there. So yes, he was named James I and VI of Scotland because this union between England and Scotland, and both sides wanted to be equally represented. So that's why we didn't then do it with his successor, who was called Charles I. He was just known as Charles I. So there had been earlier plots in order to get rid of James. Again, this ongoing thing about making England Catholic again. You can almost imagine wearing red hats saying, "Make England Catholic again." Sorry, it's a silly little joke. So yes, there were earlier plots. There was the Buy plot, as in buy, the Buy plot of 1603. And that was an attempt to kidnap James and hold him in the Tower of London. Thankfully, that was, what's the word? Flaunted? No. Flawed, whatever the word is, I can't think of. Being distracted by this wind. If you hear lots of bangs and stuff, I do apologise. So yes, there were earlier plots, and originally they were to kidnap James and make him do their bidding. However, this plot was more ambitious. They wanted to kill James and leading members of his government and rebuild the entire state from the bottom up. The idea of doing this was when everybody came together in an event called the State Opening of Parliament, something that we still have today. As in 1605, today you have the State Opening of Parliament. Parliament cannot sit without the monarch's opening of Parliament. It's part of our constitution, which is very complicated, but effectively the government or Parliament sits in the monarch's name. So we have these state openings of Parliament. We still have them today. Now, at these state openings of Parliament, you have government, you have relatives of the royal family go and join. As we've seen in certain years, the Queen is joined at the state opening of Parliament by Prince Charles. And so what I mean is that at this event that was planned for the 5th of November 1605, the state opening of Parliament, there were going to be close members of the royal family, people who could inherit the throne, members of the Privy Council, who were advisors to the king and had power over the everyday man on the street, huge numbers and key members of the Church of England, and judges, etc., all of whom would be sitting in their capacity as lords and judges, etc., in the House of Lords. And as we know, the Houses of Parliament are made up of the House of Lords, unelected peers of the realm, lords, earls, countesses, etc., and the House of Commons, which is where your elected members of Parliament would sit. So the state opening of Parliament would have all of the key players there. There would be the king, who'd be opening it, members of his family and potential heirs. There were going to be the church members, the church that was so hated by these Jesuits, these Catholic terrorists, I suppose is the word we'd use today, and judges. So basically, if this plot had succeeded, it would have obliterated all of society, functioning society as we know it. Everyone with me so far? Because now we get into the big chat about what happens next. I think we've got a rock on Tommy thing there from Mac. Rock on Tommy, absolutely. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? I don't think so. Everyone seems to be okay. We've got lots of emojis flying backwards and forwards. So let's discuss who were the conspirators. Now, you don't need to write their names down, but I always think it's worth personalising these things so that we know who we're dealing with. We had John and Christopher Wright, Robert and Thomas Winter, spelt Wintour, slightly different, Thomas Percy, a very important name to remember, Guy Fawkes, I wonder if you've heard of him, Robert Keyes, we had Thomas Bates, John Grant, Ambrose Rookwood, love that name, Ambrose Rookwood, Sir Everard Digby, that's another fantastic name actually, Everard Digby, I like that one, Francis Tresham, I'd like you to try and remember that name, and as we know, the leader was this Robert Catesby. So those were the conspirators, and they had their first meeting in order to discuss this plan to blow up Parliament, and that was in May 1604. And they met at the Duck and Drake Inn on the Strand in London. So let's, we've got, say that again, please. Do you want the conspirators' names again, Barney? Is that what you're looking for? Someone got in there with Ambrose. Ambrose Rookwood is, without a doubt, my favourite name ever. But then I think that Everard Digby is pretty good as well. Do we have... Who were they again? Okay, we'll run through them. John and Christopher Wright, Robert and Thomas Winter, so you've got two sets of brothers there. Thomas Percy, Guy Fawkes, Robert Keyes, Keyes, Thomas Bates, John Grant, Ambrose Rookwood, that's Ambrose, Rookwood, Rookwood, so Ambrose Rookwood, Sir Everard Digby, Francis Tresham, who I've asked you to try and remember, Francis Tresham, and they were all led by Robert Catesby. The royals weren't allowed to interfere with the House of Commons too much. Quite right. That's a very, very good point. Why was Guy the most infamous? Such an interesting point. And we will come on to that because Guy Fawkes, people assume, is the one who orchestrated the plot. He didn't. He was just a little part of it, really. But as we'll discover in a minute, he was found at the seat of Parliament with all this destructive stuff. Quite right, that is why Charles I died. There was a civil war because he was trying to interfere with the running of Parliament. Our dog is not getting it, woof, woof, woof. Well, I'm so sorry, perhaps we'll have to do a translation for dogs. So yes, the first meeting took place in May 1604. The conspirators came together to work on a plan to blow up the Houses of Parliament, and this planning took time. So as we know, they had their first meeting in 1604, but the plot wasn't discovered until 1605. So it was a very well thought out plan. And they spent a lot of time planning and getting things ready. So it took about a year for them to get to a point when they were really ready to kick off. He was Spanish. He wasn't Spanish, but he did fight for the Spanish in the 80 Years' War. That's why he was so important to the plotters. He was a soldier, so he knew quite a lot, did old Guy Fawkes, about what was going on, knew about gunpowder, knew about timings, knew about this. So he was a very important group member of the conspirators. Yes, it was the Duck and Drake Inn off the Strand, which is worth remembering because we always have a quiz at the end of every lesson, as you know by now. So we're now jumping forward to 1605, and on the 25th of March, the plotters bought an undercroft in the Palace of Westminster. Now, what's an undercroft? An undercroft is effectively a cellar, right? It's a space for storage. And who was? I don't know what you mean there by Graham, but I'm happy to help if you elucidate on your question. So they bought this undercroft. And the Palace of Westminster, because as we know, that's the name of the building, the Houses of Parliament, is just a term that we use as the congregation of Lords and Commons. Quite right, yes, it is a cellar. Well done, Callum. The undercroft they purchased on the 25th of March. It's effectively a large cellar. And the Palace of Westminster is not in the 17th century as we know it today. You know that if you try and get near the Houses of Parliament, there's security. There are no buildings directly connected to the Palace of Westminster. It stands alone. It was very easily accessible. People used to come and go backwards and forwards. It wasn't as policed as we know it today. My name is Ambrose. Fantastic. It's literally one of my favourite names. Welcome, Ambrose. Thank you for sharing that. So, yes, it's not like today. If we're standing outside Parliament, we're all standing together, we're all wearing our 17th century robes and clothes, standing outside Parliament, and you have buildings connected to it. You had people coming and going. It was used for storage for other people. Lawyers and merchants were able to go in quite easily. And you could rent these cellars in the Palace of Westminster for storage. So you're starting to see something here, right? This is where we're going. So the plotters easily rented, it wasn't difficult, they easily rented this undercroft, this cellar. I've lost my place in my notes. Yes, we've talked about how it was used for storage. And as I say, it wasn't unusual for merchants, etc., to purchase space in these public buildings in order to store their wares. So is everyone with me on that one? Everyone gets that the Houses of Parliament, the Palace of Westminster, was very easily accessible. Does anyone have any questions? You need the loo. I give you permission to use the loo. You rush off there. Everyone seems to be up to date. I'm very grateful. Quick slurp of coffee. Well done, everybody. Great. Thank you all for keeping up with me. So these plotters then purchased 36 barrels of gunpowder using money that came from Catholic sponsors for the plot, and they stuffed them into this cellar right underneath the Palace of Westminster. 36 barrels of gunpowder. That was enormous. It would have totally obliterated the Houses of Parliament. It would have reduced it to rubble. Thank you, Danger. I do appreciate it. It's one of my favourite ties, actually. Just give it a quick straighten and a always try and look smart for you. So yes, the 36 barrels of gunpowder would have destroyed the Houses of Parliament. It would have just completely obliterated it. Guy Fawkes, as we pointed out, was a soldier. He knew how gunpowder worked, and he was put in charge. He was given the job of guarding the gunpowder, and the gunpowder was actually disguised using bundles of firewood, which is important to remember as we come out. By October, at the beginning of October, everything was ready. The plan was there. Guy Fawkes would light the match, run away, cross the River Thames, take a horse and flee down to a dock in order to get away to Catholic France or Spain. And Elizabeth, the daughter of James I, considering that her father and all of the Privy Council and government had been blown up by this point, Elizabeth would be captured using a distraction. A rebellion was going to be created in the Midlands in order to disguise the fact that they were capturing Elizabeth. And Fawkes had a job after blowing up Parliament. He was going to go over to Europe and explain to these Catholic powers what had happened, because whilst Elizabeth was young and malleable, i.e. easy to manipulate, she wasn't officially a Catholic. So they needed someone with experience dealing with Spanish and French forces, such as Guy Fawkes himself, to go over there and explain what was going on. And in my notes, I've written, however, ... What happened next? We come to the exciting part. Everyone's still with me. I was very tempted to play Katy Perry's song Firework at this point, just because, as we know, we not celebrate, we don't really celebrate it, do we? We remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason and plot. Yes. A little glass of water as well. God, you can't beat water, can you? So what happened next? Brace yourselves. Some of the plotters were worried. They were slightly worried about fellow Catholics in the government, because some people were openly Catholic, some people were not so much. They were worried that fellow Catholics in government may get caught up in this explosion. Now, obviously, that was going to happen, right? There's no question about that. But it took them until October 1605 to really worry about it, which makes me laugh. So they didn't want fellow Catholics getting caught up in this explosion. Francis Tresham, who I asked you to remember, his brother-in-law, Lord Monteagle, and I'll spell that for you. That's Lord, M for mother, O for orange, T for tiger, E for echo, A for apple, G for golf, L for Lima, E for echo. So that's Lord Monteagle, who was Francis Tresham's brother-in-law. He was going to be in the House of Lords for the state opening of Parliament on the 5th of November. And on the 26th of October, he was just sitting down to lunch when a servant rapped on the door, came rushing in with a note and handed it to Lord Monteagle. Now, what's rather wonderful is we have that letter. I mean, I don't have it with me right now, but we have that letter, and you can still go and visit it. I'm just going to pop you here for a moment, just so I can read you the letter. So this was received on the 26th of October, 1605, and the letter went along these lines. My lord, so Lord Monteagle, out of the love I bear to some of your friends, I have a care of your preservation. Therefore, I would advise you, as you tender your life, to devise some excuse to shift your attendance at this Parliament, for God and man hath concurred to punish the wickedness of this time. And think not slightly of this advertisement, this suggestion, but retire yourself into your country, his country home, where you may expect the event in safety. For though there be no appearance of any stir, yet I say they shall receive a terrible blow. Remember that, a terrible blow, this Parliament, and yet they shall not see who hurts them. This council is not to be condemned, ignored, really, because it may do you good and can do you no harm, for the danger is past as soon as you have burnt this letter, and I hope God will give you the grace to make good use of it, to whose holy protection I commend you. So that letter effectively was telling, what's his name? I always forget his name. Francis Tresham's brother-in-law, Lord Monteagle, to get out of London, flee to his country home, in order to not be caught up in this explosion. And that letter was delivered on the 26th of October, 1605. We still, to this day, do not know who sent that letter. And someone's written creepy. You couldn't be more right. Imagine you're sitting down to your lunch, you've got a sandwich in front of you, and someone comes and gives you a letter and tells you to get the hell out of London because something's about to happen to Parliament. So Monteagle, being a decent chap, he left his luncheon table and rode his horse all the way to Whitehall, which is where Parliament, where the government sits, sort of the Privy Council, etc. And he revealed the plot to the government. And the government sort of undernerred about it because, they got reports like this. And there had been plots against the government before. As I mentioned, the By plot of 1603 was the By plot. So they'd had things like this come through before. Everyone with me so far? So we're up to the point. So there are 36 barrels of gunpowder under the House of Lords. The King is hunting in Cambridge. He's going to come back in November in order to open Parliament. And at that point, where we are, Lord Monteagle, having his lunch, gets a phone call, gets a letter telling him to get the hell away, and he's rushed to government to go and tell them. Everyone with me so far? Marvellous. Great. With me all the way. Love that. We are a team here at the Up All Hours Academy. So the King came back from his hunting in Cambridge, which is only about 20 miles away from where I'm sitting now. And the King was told of the plot on the 1st of November, 1605. Going to go boom. Absolutely. Spoiler alert. Although it didn't actually, did it? So James was given the letter and he was told of the plot on the 1st of November, 1605. James, because he was the king, was given credit for working out that the word blow in that letter could mean an explosion of some kind. Now, I'm a monarchist. I believe in our system, and I love the Queen, and I love all that sort of stuff. But I think that there are quite a few clever people in the room when the letter first arrived in October who probably had worked out that blow implied that there was going to be a plot to blow up Parliament. But the King was given credit for that because everyone likes to look after the person at the very top just to make sure that you're okay going forward. On the 4th of November, so we are up to the day before Parliament was supposed to be opened, the Lord Chamberlain, who effectively is the chief servant of the King, he runs things in the country and royal households and royal events, the Lord Chamberlain ordered a search above and below, is his quote, search above and below the Palace of Westminster for something unusual. Now here's something you might not know. The squad of soldiers found Guy Fawkes in the Undercroft, right? But this isn't when he was arrested. They went into the Undercroft, and as I said, these spaces were often rented out, and he convinced them, in a bit of fantastic acting that probably warranted an Oscar, that he was a simple serving man, and he was guarding firewood for his employer. And the soldiers went, okay, and turned around and walked out. They just left him there, right? They were standing in the room with 36 barrels of blooming gunpowder. They didn't bother to search it properly. So Guy Fawkes sort of goes, whew, and he goes out, has some lunch, and there was no problem at all. He was actually allowed to leave the Houses of Parliament. They had him right in front of them. This was early in the day. This was sort of about 11 o'clock in the morning on the 4th of November. However, very, very late that night, the King was sitting there going, well, hang on a minute, I'm taking this seriously. I feel that everyone else should. Send some more people back down there. Off you go. Go and find out what's going on in there. And they sent another set of squad of soldiers into the House of Parliament again. They searched all over, something that still happens today. It's a big part of the state opening of Parliament today, this searching of the Palace of Westminster. And this time, they found Fawkes again. Now, these soldiers were a bit cleverer than the last ones, and they found him there, and he was dressed, ready to run away. They took dress very seriously back in the day, and they saw that this chap was wearing a hat, a big heavy coat or cloak, and spurs on his boots, which implies, obviously, as you know, if you're trying to get a horse going, you have these spurs on your boots in order to get it to go faster. Everyone with me so far? So last time he was dressed in day clothes, so it was easier to disguise himself. This time he's clearly a man on a mission. So the soldiers search Fawkes, and on him they find slow-burning matches, touch paper, which is what you use to set fire to a fuse, and a pocket watch in order to time everything as he's coming along. Everyone's still with me, thumbs up, left, right and centre, we love that. So then these slightly cleverer soldiers thought, this is a suspicious looking chappie, let's have a little look around. So they looked around, they looked underneath the fire, the firewood that was used to disguise the gunpowder, and they found the 36 barrels of gunpowder. Fawkes was arrested and taken off to prison. He didn't go straight to the Tower of London. He was held elsewhere first. He gave a false name. And London was put on lockdown. Very similar to today, but in very much very 17th century manner. They closed everything down. They closed the ports. But by this point, word had reached the other plotters that Fawkes had been discovered with the gunpowder, and they did a runner. They legged it off to a house. I forgot to write down the name of the house, but they all went rushing off there, and there they hunkered down, waiting for a time they might be able to get away. Now, Fawkes was finally taken to the Tower of London, where, I'm sorry to say, he was tortured. There was a rule in the 17th century that torture was completely illegal unless it was sanctioned, made okay by the king. And I wonder, I've closed my primary source, but there was a letter that the king wrote specifically allowing the people at the tower to torture Guy Fawkes in order to get information from him. We know that he was chained to a wall and was left to dangle there for a while. We also know he was put on the rack, which I'm sure you don't need me to describe, but it's where you are tied to effectively a bed, which can be extended, and it just pulls. It's very, very nasty. Anyway, after a while, a very short period of time, it was only about 2 days, Fawkes gave up and admitted the whole plot and gave the names of everybody involved. 2 days of torture. I'd have given up after about 5 minutes. Now, I told you that the plotters, apart from Fawkes, had fled to a house, and they were there holed up, and it's when the king's men arrived. His signature, yes, Ian has hit the nail on the head there. The difference between his signatures, because there's one from when he was fighting for the Spanish in the 80 Years' War, the difference between his signature then and his signature after, when he signed his admittance, his whatever the word is, they're very, very different. So it implies that he went through quite a lot, did dear old Fawkes. So they were at this house, the king's men had turned up, there was a big shootout, and Catesby, as we talked about, leader, and Percy had been shot during this shootout. The others were captured. So they died in this shootout. Now, because the king was a bit of a petty man, and we'll find out later on that his grandson, Charles II, does the same thing with his father's killers, Catesby and Percy's bodies were dug up, and they were, the word is posthumously, which means after death, and they were posthumously executed. They had their heads cut off, and their heads were put on spikes outside the House of Lords, the building that they were trying to blow up, as we know. Digby, Robert Winter, Grant and Bates, after they were captured, were tied onto wooden slats, like these big, basically lumps of wood, and they were dragged through the streets of London for all to see, where they were pelted with all sorts of things, and then they were hung, drawn, and quartered. I'm going to, in case you don't know, but I'm not going to go into details because that's not why we're here. You're hanged, but you're cut down whilst you're still alive, and then they basically chop you up, and that's it, really. And yes, as I say, this was all done outside the... No, not all the plotters didn't die in the house. It was only Percy and Catesby who died in the house. As I was just saying, Digby, Robert Winter, Grant and Bates were executed first, hung, drawn and quartered. And then on the following day, Thomas Winter, his brother, Ambrose Rookwood, Keyes and Guy Fawkes were the following day hung, drawn and quartered. Guy Fawkes actually died in another way. When he got onto the scaffold, the platform for the execution, he actually jumped off, weak as he was, and broke his neck so he didn't have to undergo the horrors of being hung, drawn and quartered. So he actually got away with it, if you like, in a very roundabout kind of way. So that brought the end to the Gunpowder Plot. After that, James continued to rule for a very, very long time, and he did good things, actually. You know, James was a very, very good king. So that's where we come to the close of the Gunpowder Plot. And as someone pointed out at the very beginning of the lesson, the Stuarts went on ruling for a very long time, actually. And I think, hang on, let me see, test my knowledge. So you had James I, Charles I, Charles II, James II, William and Mary, and Anne, I think. Someone can let me know if I've missed someone. Right, the quiz, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go, the quiz. Have you all been taking notes? Is everyone ready to fire away? Everyone with me? Everyone happy? I mean, apart from the hung, drawing and quartering bit. We don't like that bit. We don't do gore here at the Up All Hours Academy. Question 1. 1837. I think that was the Hanovers by that point. Maybe I'm wrong. You're probably right. I will look it up. So question 1. What did the plotters want? Okay? What did the plotters want? I've tried to make this a slightly more complicated quiz because you've all been powering through with 10s out of 10s, and I've got to keep an eye on that. What did the plotters want? Anyone remember? Get your answers through. Just so you know, on Wednesday we're discussing the Magna Carta. We've had several requests for Magna Carta, which is, I think, rather an exciting possibility. Here we go, the answers are coming through now. Well done, everybody. Thomas has got it. Joe's got it. Max got it. Well done, Ian. Ian's got all of the points there. That's fantastic. Gems, well done. To make England Catholic. Well done, everybody. You're 100% right. Have a team point. They were looking for making England Catholic again. If you wrote down to blow up the Houses of Parliament, I will give you that too. But Catholic England was what we were looking for. Who were they trying to kill? Who were they trying to kill in their plot? Well done, Isabella. American Civil War. I've been humming and ahhing about the Civil War. Yes, I think that'd be a good one. Quite a lot of information to impart, but I'm sure I can get it down into an hour. I will have a little think. Who were they trying to kill? Well done, Danger. Not quite. Sheena, I'm afraid, no. Well done, Apollina. That's correct. Well done, Joe. James I is who we were looking for. Good old Jimmy 1 and 6. Well done, Mac. I'll give you a point for that. All the government, church people, king and the royal family. I'll give you a team point for that, Ian. You're 100% right. Well done, Danger. Well done, everybody. The answer we were looking for was James I. At which event did they plan on killing James? Well done, Isabella. Trousers? I don't think they had any... I don't think trousers were involved, were they? Maybe a typo. You have to let me know. Yeah, all right, I'll give you that one. Go on then. That's fine. So yes, at what event were they trying to kill James? Which event was it? Straight in there with the right one. I can't. I think, is that Callum? I can't remember. Sheena Rog. I can't remember if that's Callum or not. Well done. State opening of Parliament. Opening of Parliament. Everyone's. Oh God, God, you're too good for me. Well done, Mac. Well done, everybody. Amelia and Daisy, you've got it as well. Exactly, the state opening of Parliament. How were the plotters betrayed? How were the plotters betrayed? Absolutely. Whoever said James VI, well done. Yep, Callum. I thought it was Callum. Thanks, mate. Sorry, I get so confused. I really do. So you'll have to forgive me. Isabella's got it right as well. Well done. Yes, absolutely. The state opening of Parliament. And our next one was how were they betrayed? If you can remember, with Monteagle having his lunch. Yep, Callum straight in there with a letter to Lord Monteagle. Well done, team point. A letter to a lord. Absolutely, I'll take that. 100%. That's fine. Bye, Guy. Not quite, Mac, but I see where you're going to that. The note from Thingy. Oh, Barney, see me after class. But yes, you're right. The note from Thingy. Letter to Lord Monteagle. Well done. Absolutely right. Well done, Ian. Excellent. Well done, everybody. That's correct. How many barrels of gunpowder were discovered? Thomas has got it, absolutely. KT Hack 19, I can't remember your name, but you're 100% right. Amelia and Daisy have got it right. Lord Monteagle, by torture. Isabella, you know what? Actually, yes, you can have a point for that because they did draw it all out, didn't they? We don't know who sent it. Have a team point there, Callum. Ian's got it right. Everyone's straight in there with the right answers. Well done. The answer was 36. Absolutely correct. 36. They came in staggered deliveries. The first one to arrive came in 20 barrels and the next one came in at 16. So yes, you're right. 36 is what we were looking for. Who were they planning on putting on the throne? Who were they planning on putting on the throne after they'd blown up everybody in Parliament? Who was going to win the top job? Joseph. Thanks, Joseph. Well done. Eating ice. Never eat ice in a lesson. Here we go. Yes, Elizabeth. Correct. Absolutely right. Elizabeth, James's daughter. 100% right. Liz from Callum. Yes, all right. You can have from Max. Sorry, you can have a point for that. His daughter Elizabeth. Well done, Barn. Elizabeth. You've all got it right. Well done. Absolutely right. True or false? The plotters rented an attic for the plot. True or false? The plotters rented an attic for the plot. Elizabeth's coming from Apollina. 6, well done. Nikki Blake, well done. Joseph's got it. Isabella with Elizabeth 0.2. Quite right, yeah, exactly. Well done. Here we go. Answers for true or false. False. Well done, everybody. Absolutely correct. It was false. They rented an undercroft. Well done, Harry. You got that one right. Well done, Barn. Absolutely. They didn't rent an attic. They rented an undercroft. In which year did the plot take place? Well done, everybody. Nikki Blake. Absolutely. Joseph's got it. Max got it, absolutely. Fab. This is all fantastic. In which year did the Gunpowder Plot take place? It's so windy out there today, it's ridiculous. Okay, Ian has come straight in with an answer, as has Apollina. Well done, everybody. Yes, look at you, all fantastic. 1605 is what we were looking for. Well done. Amelia and Daisy have got it right. Well, Amelia and Daisy have put down 1905, but I know what you mean, and I won't, I won't take that away. Oh, Harry's loving it. Wonderful, Harry. Lovely to have you here. Penultimate question. True or false? Guy Fawkes died from being hung, drawn, and quartered. 1605, November. Well done, Joseph. Have a team point. 1605, well done, Graham Nicole, absolutely. 1605 is what we were looking for. True or false? Guy Fawkes died from being hung, drawn and quartered. 1605 from Mac. Wonderful, Wild and Free Runner, got it right. You've all got it beautifully right. Look at that, straight in there, Harry. Well done. False. The answer was indeed false. He did not die from being hung, drawn and quartered. He was hung, drawn and quartered after he died, but he actually died from a broken neck, throwing himself off the scaffold. Correct, everyone. Amelia and Daisy have got it right. False. Bravo-issimo. And the final question, the easiest question, but let's just get it out there and please let me know how you did in this quiz. How do we remember the Gunpowder Plot today? After you've answered that, hit all of your scores in the comments. I will be just filling you in that we'll be doing, as I say, Magna Carta on Wednesday after all these lovely suggestions that have come through. And we've had a suggestion for the American Civil War on Friday. So that's something we might be able to discuss later on. Excellent. Look, you all knew the answer to this one. It was Bonfire Night. Of course it was. Well done, everybody. Everyone's done a sterling job today. I've loved the interaction. You all get 10 team points for all this. And as I've always said, if you get a team point, perhaps mummy, daddy or whoever can give you a little treat for doing so well, because you've all done fantastically. Full marks for Amelia and Daisy. Danger's got it right, as has Wonderful Wild and Free. Bonfire night was what we're looking for. Fireworks, bonfire and sausages. Well, you couldn't be more right if you tried, Mac. Absolutely right. Me and Jamie got 10 from 10. Well done. 100%. Full marks for Harry. 100% for Joseph. 10 out of 10 for Thomas. Well done, everybody. I am very, very proud and very, very impressed. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege. All the Boer War coming in from Michelle. I understand why you want that one. I will definitely take that one into consideration. One wrong, not to worry on that one. July the 4th. That's your birthday. Happy birthday on the July the 4th. Could we do Che Guevara? Very interesting question. I will definitely give that some thought. Well, look, everybody, you've done an amazing job. I will see you all on Wednesday. Please do share this with friends, family, whoever you get to chat to, because I want to keep this going as much as possible if you're happy with it. And yes, thank you all. Drop me a note anytime you wish at MacShad or at Up All Hours Photos. Lovely. Okay, everybody, take care and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye all. Take care.